Hello, I'm Agnes Low, professional corporate trainer and strength coach. Welcome to my channel. Today, I have two guests from very close to me. Same time zone. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and they are in California Bay Area. So same time zone, they finish work and they join me to have this interview sharing. This is very special. This week is United Nations named this week as International Youth Week. And both of them are the very special youth. And my good friend, I know their parents, and their parents are my very good friend. We learn together, we follow the same teachers for years. And let me tell you how many years ago I first met the lady in the screen, Natalie. I met her when she was very young kid. I think it's only 10 years old, run around in Kuching, Malaysia, her home. Now she is living, after finishing school, she lives in San Francisco. And then the other gentleman, I met him when he was also very young, roughly around 14 years old. He went with his mom to Kona, I think, right? Hawaii. Yeah, at that time, he was very shy. Now he really outperformed his personality. I can't wait to hear from two of them. Their changes are really very different than my youth, that kind of transition. From a student to employment, they face a lot of different kind of experiences. Without further ado, let me get two of them introduce themselves. Hi, Derrin.
Hi, Agnes. I appreciate you inviting me onto your platform. Hi, everyone. Like she said, my name is Derrin, and I was born and raised in the Bay Area. So that's why we have the San Francisco in the background.
Yes.
But I ended up going to the opposite coast for college. And I actually just graduated last year from Northeastern University with a degree in computer engineering. So I'm a firmware engineer now at a startup. I moved back home and found a job here. And what a firmware engineer is it's a programming job, but it's somewhere in between more traditional software and hardware. So the code I write is specific to a device, let's say. So, I'm not writing code for your web browser. I'm writing code for a specific project on a very tiny little device with a little computer on board.
Okay, great. Thank you. And how about Natalie? Natalie from Malaysia. Now she is living in San Francisco. She is a strategic partnership associate at an NGO company. Natalie, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Agnes, for having us on your channel. This is my first time calling in from California on a YouTube interview. This is my first time. I used to make YouTube videos when I was younger, but nothing like this. So don't check it out. To introduce myself, as Agnes said, I am from Malaysia, and I went to China to study in the Beijing Foreign Studies University for 2 years, studying international business. And then I finished my studies in San Francisco State University. So it's funny, it's BFSU and an SFSU. And I finished with a minor in international business and a major in business administration and decision sciences. I am currently, as Agnes mentioned, an associate at a nonprofit called Kiva. We sometimes call it a 16-year-old startup because it's still a pretty small company, but it has wide impact around the world, which is one of the reasons that I enjoy working there. So yeah, that's my introduction. So back to you.
Yeah, so great to have two of you. I mean, I'm so glad that I still keep in touch, not only your parents, but also two of you. Today, we chose the topic of transition from student to employment. Both of you are quite fresh, right? Just joined in the work field, in workplace, very new. Can both of you share with us, is there anything that you really use your value in your life that really conquer the transition from a student life? Student, in my point of view, student is really happy. Parents pay and everything is like so easy. And now you are working. Is there any particular value in your life that you find is very essential? You can share with our audience.
So for me, I think persistence and perspective are probably the biggest values when it came to going from being a student to being fully employed. I graduated in 2021 during the pandemic still. So it was, it was different. No one really had a guide for how you're supposed to find a job when you can't really meet with people, or how to find a job when less people are hiring. And so for me, I started applying even before I graduated. I had applied, I think, like in a month before I had graduated, and then for the following couple months. And I definitely got lucky when I found a job at a place that really worked well for me. And I had help, but I think one of the biggest things for me was not giving up and being able to stick with the whole process, because I knew that part of it is like a numbers game where it's, you have to apply to a lot of companies. You have to apply to like 10, 15, 20, 30 companies, and you only really hear back from maybe 5 if you're lucky. And so when you hear back from those 5, then you have to keep going and prove to them that you're someone who can contribute to them. And so for me, it was, I couldn't get too down. Oh, I got a rejection, or someone didn't get back to me. I just had to be like, okay, they weren't for me. I just have to keep going. And so understanding that, a lot of people also go through this. It's not just me or my friends or, people I know that had to take the time to find a job. It's a really common thing. So understanding that you're not alone in this process of struggling to find a job is also helped support me while I was doing it.
Great, thank you. How about you, Natalie?
For me, I do resonate with Derrin's description of the value of persistence. But for me as well, I think a value that helped me through the transition was hopefulness, and also being self-aware and having reflections on what kind of industries am I really interested in, what kind of job functions, because I feel like a slight difference between being a business major and a science major is that the path after graduation is a bit more open. It's like 5,000 things you can choose. So during college, I was an administrative assistant to people in the student government. So I thought, okay, I already have this job experience, so I can look for this similar roles. So right before the pandemic, I think December 2019, I was going to, investment firms. I was, wearing like blazer and all that, going to companies for interviews to be an office assistant or an administrative assistant. And I think it was March 2020 that I finally got a job as a recruiting coordinator, because I was like, oh, maybe I could go into HR. Then the next day, lockdown happened and they said, we don't need this job anymore. So the recruiter called me and said, oh, I'm so sorry, but COVID. So that was also the challenge of transitioning into a pandemic world that everyone, like Derrin said, doesn't really know how to deal with. But looking back, I really am grateful that that happened, because it opened my mind to other paths, other industries. So I got an internship at a nonprofit that I was able to do remotely. And that is how I was able to, kind of pay for my rent, because my parents said, you graduated college, so pay your own rent. So I was able to, build up through these internships, create connections with other internships. And then in my current role, I was also an intern. and then they had an opening for a full-time position. So I think patience, perseverance, and just following the path that you choose. And like, yeah, I think that was kind of what the transition for me was like.
That's very valuable with both of you. I really like both of you sharing, talking about the persistence and also perspective, self-awareness, and definitely need to be hopeful because facing the pandemic and just like, oh, suddenly lockdown, the position, we don't need that position. How can that be? If long time ago, this would not happen, but now anything can happen. The world, we have to be, to welcome any kind of sudden changes, and we have to adapt. This is very important. Wonderful. So tell me a little bit more about after you land to this job. This is your first job? Is it your first job, Derrin, or you have changed from one to another?
So I think I was definitely really fortunate that at Northeastern, they sort of have a requirement that you get internships, or they call them co-ops, every summer in between sophomore year and junior year. And if you take a fifth year, then in between your fourth and fifth years. And so this, I would not say this is my first job, definitely my first full-time, like after graduation job, but I am definitely lucky that I have experience with the job search, with interviewing, and with adjusting into the working life.
In this job, what is the biggest joy or any kind of happy moment you really find this really suits my personality, your value, or your strength? Anything that you can highlight?
Yeah, I'm definitely someone who really likes problem solving, like puzzles or just like building things. I like to be able to solve a problem like straight on, not necessarily by myself. It's great to have help from other people, but it is something that when I like challenge my mind like that, it makes me really excited to do it. And so for me, I guess that's part of the reason I'm an engineer, is because I get presented with very like tangible problems that I can go in and solve. And so that being confronted with very new sort of problems or questions that I've never seen, especially in school or even in past internships, I was like, oh, this is really fun to be put in a place where I don't know what I'm doing. So I have to go learn and figure out what to do to solve the problem. And so that definitely is part of the reason I like the job I have. But also, I think for me, a major reason I enjoy working at a particular company is the people, and not necessarily the work. I enjoy the work because it's challenging, but the specific thing I'm working on isn't necessarily as important as the people I work with. And so I'm also really happy that the people I work with are really fun to work with, very supportive, and they help me learn a lot.
Wonderful. I like it. And you know what? When you say you like the problem solving part, that is definitely your strength. There is one of the strength. If you know Strength Finder, if you have done the assessment, you must know that like to solve problem is also one of your strengths. So make sure you remember every day to help others to solve problem. If I have any problem, I will give you a text and then, can you help me to solve a problem? You like the problem solving. I'm not very much like to have the problem solving unless I need to solve a problem. Thank you. How about Natalie? When you go to Kiva, your NGO work, it's quite different than other kind of company. So I can tell that you are happy and learning, keep on growing in your company. Tell me about any kind of value that you really find you discover yourself more, understand yourself more, which fits yourself.
Speaking of the Strength Finders, I was trying to find my results, but I believe my top strength is arranger, be organized, but also flexible. So you can kind of see where all the pieces fit together. I guess it's kind of like problem solving, but more, I feel in my work, it's more people oriented. So I know, okay, this colleague is very, very good at closing deals, but she absolutely hates making pitch decks. This colleague, me, I love making pitch decks, can help with that. So kind of bringing people together, bringing resources together. I think that's one of my strengths that I've been able to lean into, because when I started, one of the associates left the company. And so I was filling in for her role, which is totally different from what I was hired for. But because of that, I was able to get some behind the scenes, how the operations are run, some of that experience. So now I feel it empowers me to make decisions and make judgment calls. Even when my manager is asking, how does this work? What should I do? I say, oh, I learned this from the operations associate. This is what we are going to do. So yeah, the arranger, the arranger strength on the strength finders.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you have a very high arranger, and Derrin, you have very high restorative. That definitely is the problem solving part. So wonderful. Now, if I give you a microphone to share to the world now, from the transition as a student, now going to be a very different role as employee in your company. So the microphone is to let you share with other youth on how to overcome any hurdles when they are facing this transition. Especially, I can tell that COVID, the change in virtual interview and different kind of, suddenly maybe that country or that city has like what kind of wave, the fifth wave, the sixth wave, whatever kind of waves, suddenly there is lockdown, all these kind of changes. So what is the advice that from your point of view, from your experience, can you share your insight or using your microphone to share with the youth? How about Natalie? You go first.
For me, I would follow on the, you guys probably can't see, but Derrin went, finally I'm going first. But following on to the thread of having that hopefulness, I think a really good question I ask myself when, things seem tough, instead of asking, like Derrin said, apply to a million jobs and some of them don't get back to you. But instead of focusing on that and thinking like, oh, what's the worst that could happen if I apply? What's the best thing that could happen? What if, they really like get an interview, give you an interview, give you the job, and then you get to grow in this completely moonshot dream that you had. So just having that positive thinking and really believing in yourself. I think even that day that even though I got even though that job became obsolete for the recruiting coordinator role, I still have very good memories of the day that they offered me the job, because I was so happy. I went to the beach with my friends, we did a bonfire, and those are the real things that last. I think I don't even remember what the company was, but I still remember that day, like how I felt. So yeah, just having the positivity, it's one of the best things about being a youth.
That's great. Yeah, being positive always. And I really like what you said about the hopefulness, because it's really need to have hope. If not, you cannot succeed. Yeah. How about next one? That's Derrin.
Yep. I definitely agree with Natalie that being able to look at things from a more hopeful perspective is very important. Keeps the morale up and, helps you figure out what you really want to look for, as opposed to, settling for something. And so for me, the things that helped the most when I was looking for this job after graduating, there's a few things. I'd say a big one, I know I sound like a recruiter or, like a professional at a meet and greet event, but having connections is really powerful. And it's not necessarily like, oh, you have to go out of your way to ask everyone for their business card, or you have to go to conventions or join organizations just to get connections. For me, I think the most important connections are actually just, keeping in touch with friends, classmates that you worked on projects with, former employers, if that is something that you've had the chance to
don't burn the
do.
bridge, right? Don't burn the bridge.
Try not to burn bridges, for sure. But I'd say for me, one of the main reasons I was able to end up at my job is because one of my friends does work at this company, and he joined the previous year, actually during 2020. So for him, he actually had a harder time finding the job, but it just happened timing wise that a few months after I graduated, they were looking for more engineers. And so he's like, hey, we took classes together. We're friends. I know that you're a pretty smart guy. You should apply to our company. And so I did. And, I think it definitely really helped that it helped me get a foot in the door. And that's one of the more important things about finding a job is, not asking people to give you a job, or to, get you all the way through, make it easy for you, but just knowing people who are willing to, give you a suggestion and help you get past the filter of just looking at resumes is really important. And so for me, definitely having that connection was very big.
Right. I know what you mean. The connection as me, like auntie of you, that kind of like different kind of age and experience. Connection is a very meaningful. Networking is also very, very important because in our work life or in our personal life, sometimes you never know who you may be able to offer some help to another person, or someone eventually is the lead to give you some opportunities as well, or some advice. So it's very important. It's good. You already see this is important to your life. So now if you are working at your company for a period of time, you must have experienced some kind of praise or a very positive comment from your senior or your manager. Can you share with us what is your very memorable praise that you remember to encourage people to feel that workplace is not that scary? There are some positive things, and anything that you like to share with us, there is some kind of support and also praise or even encouragement from your superior. Natalie?
I'm going to have to let Derrin go first. I need to think.
You need to think. Okay, Derrin?
You definitely have to have the right type of boss or coworkers that are supporting. And I'm grateful that mine are very supportive. I'd say that not so much like praise, but the encouragement that, everyone at your company has gone through that phase of getting out of college, getting their first job and being like, what the heck am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And so having coworkers and bosses who know that, like, recognize that, even if they are, 40 or 50 years old, they've been on the job for many years. It's been way longer since they've graduated from college, but they still recognize that, there is a transitionary period. And so when they do recognize it and, they make sure that, they know, so that you don't have to feel as much pressure to, instantly excel at your job the moment you join. I mean, for me, even there was definitely an adjustment period of a month of like, I feel so overwhelmed. Am I at the right place? Do I actually know how to do this job? And, and it's not just the first month. It's okay to feel those feelings for longer. I've definitely, that was when it was most intense. I was like, oh, I'm so confused. But having people who are like, yeah, like, it's okay. Just take a deep breath. You're not here to do the perfect job. You're here to learn how to do the job. And so even now, sometimes I'll run into quest problems where I'm like, oh, I feel so unsure about what I'm doing. But having the coworkers who do recognize, like, hey, like, I've been working at this company for almost a year, so still less than a year. So they're still like, you know what, we can help you with that. And so yeah, not so much praise, but the encouragement and support is definitely a big aspect.
Is there anything you like to say to your employer?
I mean, just thanks for giving me a shot. I think that we both recognize how we contribute to each other and the company. And so I appreciate that they've given me a chance, and they encourage me to learn more and grow as an engineer and as a person.
Thank you, Derrin. How about you, Natalie?
For me, I feel like they praise me for stuff that's not related to work. They'll say, "Oh, your art's so nice," and I'm not a designer or an artist. And I think sometimes it's probably coming from my personal like skepticism. I'll think, "Oh, why are you praising me for this specific thing? Is it because you want me to do that for you in the future?" You're so good at all this stuff that I hate to do. Yeah, but one example of, I think, a time when I felt appreciated by my employers is when I was transitioning from intern to full-time. There were 2 job openings, and I think both managers wanted me for so it's like they were pitching themselves to me, like, "Oh, if you were on my team, this is what we would do. We would be so excited to have you on this team." So I think the manager that was able to call out my strengths that I identify with, saying, "You're great at coming up with creative ideas. You're good with, doing research and things like that. And you also get to get these experiences that the other manager can offer you." So I think when a manager acknowledges strengths or areas that I want to improve in, that I want to grow in, I think that's, it feels nice to know that a manager wants you to succeed. And in that sense, you feel like you have a good partnership with them. So if I had to say something to my manager right now, I would say, I think we're great partners, and I'm glad that we're on this journey together. And for my team, I love my team. It's really, I don't think I got to share earlier about what my favorite thing about the company is, but I definitely think the people, make it.
That's great. I think to rephrase a little bit about praise, sometimes it's very important to see that recognition. I think recognition is already the very important part. I believe, because I'm someone who was also an employee, and now I'm an employer, and I also have my team, not a very big team. I have my team member. And I do feel that it's important that we need to recognize each other, and also that recognition. So I believe as your role, you can also recognize the company verbally or by even some body language that can also make your company feel that this employee is really treasuring working here and appreciate this role, and they will definitely continue to grow with you and not do things for you, but it's together with you. So last but not least, my channel is about power of gratitude. I'm so glad today. First of all, let me show my gratitude. This big sister of you, I feel that I'm very, very honored and also happy to grow together with you, to go for so many classes. I believe 2 of you we have traveled to so many different places. At least Natalie, I think Paris, Turkey, and Derrin, US, and definitely Honolulu, Hawaii, not Honolulu, Kona, right? Big Island. So anyway, so many different places, Thailand, Malaysia. With all these years we grow together, I know that appreciation is something that we learn. It's a very key value to have an abundance life. Can you show your appreciation to your key figures, maybe your parents or someone? Can you share with us, please? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, this one, Natalie want to go first. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank my parents. I think I constantly, when I hear about people who work to put themselves through college, I feel very fortunate that my parents, made it a priority to save up, to send their kids to college, to complete a university education. And the whole way they were super supportive, giving me the trust and the freedom to, choose the career that I want. And they always tell me that they're proud of me. So I'm very, very grateful and appreciate my parents.
Thank you so much. I'm sure Lee and Mui are listening, and then they will also feel very proud of you. Derrin?
I mean, I have a lot of people I'm grateful for. Definitely one of them is my friend who helped me find a place here at Khoros, my company. And I really do appreciate my parents for everything. They moved here when they were younger than me right now. So they were able to really start as new as they can, as fresh as they could be in California. And now I am back here from college and I'm also working. And so I appreciate them also for, letting me stay at home for a little bit, save up a little money before I move out. That's also a huge plus. And of course, thank you, Agnes, for inviting us to be part of your project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure your parents, Susan, and your dad, both of them are very proud of you as well. It is a great honor to have a chance to hear from youth. Both of you are very early 20s and already know about the life purpose and also value, and then continue to grow. And definitely your light can shine in different part of the world. So next time when I go to visit San Francisco, I definitely will come to visit two of you. Have a very, very good life and stay safe. Thank you very much. If you like this channel, please give me a thumbs up and then also subscribe and push the notification bell. Next time we're going to have another beautiful guest. Thank you, two beautiful souls, and have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.